Today I had a wonderful session with a group who were training to be time to think facilitators. And I've been working in the time to think field for a number of years now, and yet I still learn something every time I'm with my students. And there were three key things that emerged today. The first one is we talked about the difference between unformed and uninformed thinking. And unformed thinking is that sort of thinking where someone's not quite thought something through. You can see them still fumbling for words as they're getting to the end of a thought and really testing their assumptions and learning and also benefiting from the generative attention that's helping them to think. The second is the uninformed thinking, which of course is the sort of thinking that comes from someone who may not be an expert in the particular subject. And what we found is that with both these forms of thinking, they tend to get overlooked. It's always the case that the subject matter expert will be given more time and space to think because they supposedly know what they're talking about, which of course they do. But the expert can be constrained by what they know, by all the history and baggage that comes with being an expert. Whereas the uninformed thinker can maybe introduce a completely new idea because they're not, as I say, constrained by that. And that's where the real, fresh, independent thinking that we need might lie, that opens the possibility to new solutions. In the case of the unformed thinking, that's where, again, where the possibility lies, because when we can get to the edge of our thinking and beyond without a fear of being interrupted, then we really can be at the growing edge and start to tap into the wisdom that I think is within each of us when we are given the time and space to really explore our thoughts. But the challenge is it requires us to keep listening when our instinct might be to shut someone down. Our instinct might be to interrupt because, oh, we've heard what they're going to say. We've already figured out what they're going to say. We think we know where they're going. And that assumption can just kill ideas. And the question I ask myself, and it's one of Nancy Klein's great questions, is how do I know for sure that what I'm about to say is more important than what they're about to think? And that's a really important distinction. It's not what they're thinking or saying now, it's what they're about to think. It's giving them that time and space to see where they're going and to follow that and stay interested in that. Now, this brings us to another aspect of the thinking environment, which is the component of equality. And here we mean equality as thinkers, regardless of the hierarchy, status, power, our ability to think about things is equal. And yet that's not always so easy in practice, as we're sitting there patiently drumming our fingers, willing someone to stop thinking because what we want to say is so much more important. So equality as thinkers, a key component in the thinking environment. And the third thing, which was really interesting, was about meetings. Somebody was saying that they'd run a meeting recently in a thinking environment, and afterwards the conversation had continued. They'd got messages in their email, they had side conversations in the corridor, and they thought, oh gosh, maybe we didn't resolve it. Did the meeting do what it was meant to do if people still are thinking about all these things? Because we've got to move on to the next thing. We set aside time aside for that discussion and here we are still talking. And we reframed that really, because instead of thinking, did we resolve the issue? A question became, did we create the conditions to ignite people's thinking, to create the space for genuine thinking to emerge? And if we did that, that's a real win. Because very often we shut things down too quickly and people haven't really been given the opportunity to say what they really think. And we thought in this case it was a win, not a negative thing. And that was an interesting point to end on. What do you think?